Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Spike Down Episode 3. My name is Keith LaFortune. Joining me is Roy, and we've done it. We've made it through the halfway point. We're just past it now, heading into Week 4. But we can't jump into Week 4 until we dive into what Week 3 had for us. And, of course, that means talent predictions. Roy, it was quite a week, I'd say. Quite a week for predictions. Your boy got a hot one off the stop, right off the top. But a pretty mild week for predictions again.
Yeah, this actually was maybe the first week where there was actually some like split decisions going on. And I'm not seeing Uber and Wyatt still cheating off each other's homework. So that's good. That is a big positive. But yeah, it was a tough week of predictions for sure.
Turned out okay. Obviously, Moisek Shopify, everyone clinches that one. I'm going to go through the obvious ones. M80, OXG, everyone was on board there. Obviously, your boy picking Core. They were able to give me some praises on that one. And you know what? I was a bit crazy to take it. I just had a feeling. And,
Could I also defend myself?
Sure.
I would like to defend myself and also expose myself for being quite an idiot. I actually picked Core in the last content. We can pull up the records. I did pick Core in the content. But when I got sent the sheet, I'm doing the multiple choice. I just circled the wrong thing. But there's video proof, and you can vouch for this, that I did choose Core for the prediction. So technically, you and I are the only ones that got that one correct. But I'll hold the L because I'm an idiot. So it's completely fine.
It is true.
Completely fine.
Let's roll the clip. We'll see it. And when we come back, we'll hopefully be able to right that wrong. And
well, Core's playing up a little bit. YF's playing down a little bit. I feel like there's somewhere in the middle. I'm also going Core.
See, Winthrop, TSM, Vensley, and I went down in flames there. Sad TTR. Majority sad. TTR pulled that one away. So a week for predictions that, everyone still ended positive in the predictions. And that's all we can hope for. And of course, that means we're going to talk about last week's events. We're going to start at the top, work our way through. First up on the chopping block, Thinking Men versus Moist X Shopify. Roy, how do you feel about this game overall?
Okay, there's actually a lot of good takeaways. I'm going to start with, let's do like a sandwich method. Let's go with the sandwich method.
Okay, I like this.
One, I think Split was actually an amazing showing by Thinking Men. It was not a fluke. They had a very strong game plan. They played extremely well. They showed up. Vix popped off. There was multiple players that were just absolutely going crazy. That is the one positive, kind of nice. Actually, no, I'll add one more in there. I'll add one more in there as well. Okay, first week, Lear, second week, Lear was moved in. He was substituted for Mr. Screwface. He did not perform very well in his debut matches with Thinking Men. This week, though, it was kind of a nice bounce back for him, though. So, like, it's always, like, feels good, man, to, like, have a bad week. Everyone's, like, doubting you, and then next week you're kind of showing up, performing pretty well. Kind of, like, it's good for, like, the team morale and, like, just putting everyone at ease, like there's no questioning whether they made the right or wrong decision, and it's like it's good that Lear's kind of showing up. But there are some negatives here. Okay, I'll jump into some of them. One, Moist Shopify lost 6 pistols.
Yeah.
6. That's 100% lose rate on their pistols. They also lost 3 anti-bonuses. That's 6 pistols and 3 anti-bonuses. Like, there's unlucky, but that's not a good sign from my perspective.
Yeah. And I agree with your points on Split. It's interesting, like Split and Breeze were kind of Thinking Men's Split was exactly what Moisek Shopify's Breeze was, just really controlling the play, not really giving a chance, and Bind ended in a very close fashion. I think primary takeaway for me is Mata really is finally setting into, I don't know, his demon arc maybe is a good way to put it. This guy is just Mr. Consistent. And I think that's really important for a team like this. Yes, you have Brock and Vic to back you up. But if Mata can stay at this level, I think the support system this team has is top tier. We're seeing Brock, Vic, and Fly over 3 maps playing 3 agents. Really cool stuff from Moisek Shopify. Thinking Men, we'll dive into them a bit later because they're in a particularly awkward situation. But the second match of that day, Core YFP, your boy picked Core. I know everyone's going to be sick of me saying it, but hey, I can only say it for this week until you hear my predictions later. Initially, my takeaway from this match is I'm happy to see Bones performing to the level that you and I know he can. So that's takeaway one positive for YFP. The second positive, this isn't going to YFP, it's going to Core, is Zeldris. And honestly, the team as a whole a lot more together. There's more direction in the rounds. And I think Zeldris is the type of player where things get chaotic. You really have to mid-round and make individual decisions. It gets a little hairy, but he didn't even really have to make too many decisions because the rounds were playing out Core's favor. Not every time, but definitely comfortably. Sunset, you can't say that. But it felt like Zeldris had direction, and he was given the support, and he absolutely just controlled the server in both maps.
Oh man, I 100% agree. Like, you could tell that there was very clear round logic. Like, every week by week, Core is starting to show like a lot more confidence in the way they're playing the maps. Like, dude, I remember even on Sunset, there was a round where like they knew that YFP was about to go for the orb, but they had a trap set up on their attack side to counter like them snagging the orb, made them seem safe. They got their one way off. It was completely quiet on the map. Like, okay, we can grab our ult. They go to the YFP goes to snag their ult orb. Boom, a huge trap play coming out by Core. Like, you can just tell that their like round logic is like very well structured, and there's like clear go-tos. I also want to say, like, that series between YFP and Core could literally be its own frag montage, and it would be like a very high tier frag montage. Like, there were so many situations and moments where like players are just going berserk, dude. Like, insane clips, awesome frags, clean, like super like satisfying. Like, comes to mind Mr. Ziff's like game-ending clutch. Like, he had many like multiple of those situations. There were just so many rounds where it's like 3Ks, 4Ks, like left and right aces. Like, dude, what is going on? It's literally a cinema. Man. Oh my god.
Yeah, and it's a double-edged sword because it's great to see Core finding a win, but YFP could have maintained, right? Could have been 2-1, and they could have been in a such more comfortable position. And also playing Core when they did. Now Core is up in round differential -9, where YFP's now -12. But they're not the scary group for now, so I think they should be okay. But overall, if you missed it, definitely go check out some highlights. The weekly highlights going to be coming up this week. If you want to go check that out,
I'm going to rewatch that.
Going to be a lot of clips in there. And that wraps up day one. Day two is the day of 2-0s, the only day where both series ended in 2-0, and it was TSM Winthrop kicking off, then M80 Glazers. We'll start at the top. Winthrop, my feeling from this one, Roy, I suppose, to kick off your thoughts, they didn't feel like themselves this week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if it's like they weren't themselves, or just TSM's power creep curve is really starting to kick in. But I mean, TSM is looking good, man. Like, we honestly can't deny that. Like, the haters are slowly kind of getting quiet. And I mean, even like, you can just, for me, when a duelist starts popping off to the level that Sim's popping off, it means that like the gears are in motion, right? Like, you know, you're getting set up, you have a nice clean first kill, first death. Like, you can be a great duelist, but if you're not in a good system, like, you'll never know if that person is good or not, you know? Like, Sim is obviously talented, but like the fact that they're starting to like get their roles comfy, their structure starting to show, like, kind of like we're getting more insight into their system and like how it operates. Like, I think we're starting to see TSM kind of like creeping into that top 5 rankings for this week.
Oh,
for sure.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I do want to say Lotus, Winthrop played well, clearly a little slow to get going. Losing pistols was a big thing. I don't think they won one pistol, but it didn't matter because they lost the following round on Breeze. I would say Lotus was okay for Winthrop. I think it's continuing to show to be a consistent map for them that they perform. Breeze was just a Sim 7 show, heavily backed by the triple support players, essentially. It was just really, it felt really easy for them. They were able to poke and prod. All the trap plays Winthrop were trying to do off barrier, you know, with the Yoru and interesting mollies and jet peaks with dashes and darts. Didn't really catch TSM off guard. And that is a map where typically if you overstep into a main, you overstep into mid, next thing you know, you're getting swung from 3 places. But TSM never really let that slip or let that happen. Just a controllable map from them. And I'd be scared to play TSM on Breeze. I'm going to be honest. Old school comp, good time results, really.
I think for me, like, one maybe kind of like final note on my end is that, like, we actually are seeing a good continuation of the performance by Infiltrator from last week. Like, first week, Infiltrator was just a little quiet. He was a little timid, right? Second week, he was starting to have like really good performances. And then this week, I mean, despite their kind of harsh loss against TSM, not only in a 2-0, but like obviously the scoreline just wasn't close. But Infiltrator was still playing pretty well, all things considered. And I mean, he's playing against some of the best players in the region, right? Like at this level, like these players are no joke, dude. So for him to be performing well, even on a team that is kind of struggling and in terms of like matching and on different areas, like he's doing pretty well. So look, I'm going to be looking out for that personally.
Yeah, and if you can keep it up, who knows? Definitely still a lot to play left in the season. It's only stage 1. And M80, the Glazers, to round out day 2. And I think the main talking point for me right off the rip, I guess 2. 1, Xander's absolutely nuts and finally dialed back into where he was last year's Ascension. And 2, the Glazers are just unlucky. I still feel like they're so playing unlucky. They're playing good. It's just it's never feels like they're behind. And I know you can say, well, Icebox felt like it, but it's 13-7, 13-6. They're playing okay. They don't feel behind, but they're 0-3, and that's the kicker, really.
Yeah, dude. Like, no, I completely agree. I don't think Glazers are playing poorly. Like, I have that down in my notes in like 10 different areas. Like, they are not playing poorly at all. It's just one. There's like those little edges and team play and like kind of like pop-off potential they're kind of lacking. They are also getting kind of fifth in the openers too. That is one area they could definitely look to. Maybe they just were unlucky that series. I'm not entirely sure. But that and their opening schedule was tough, dude. They had a really tough opening schedule. But that makes me kind of starting to think a little bit like, did the Glazers need to win their match against Turtle in the first, was it week 1 or week 2? I can't remember.
Week 1, yeah.
Week 1. I think they needed to like really, that was like the match that they needed to win if they wanted like a comfy spot to like avoid even the conversation of relegation. But as of right now, they're 0-3, dude. That's scary place to be right now. There's only like what, 2, there's this week, the upcoming week 4?
2 matches, yeah, 2 weeks left.
Week 5, and that's it. We're going into relegations right away.
Yeah.
That's scuffed, dude. That's very, very unlucky, dude.
Yeah, and if they beat SAD, it comes down to Winthrop Glazers head-to-head and maybe seeing who gets bottom of the group, really, for relegation. After next week, we're really going to have a more clear picture of what it's going to look like, but the Glazers really need to hopefully turn that ship around. Tough next 2 matches ahead of them, but I think if they play like they have against their first 3 opponents, they should be in a more comfortable position in their next 2 games. And M80, not much to say. Xander just played unreal, felt like he was in the right spots at the right time pretty much every round. And not a lot of negatives. I mean, just really solid team play, but it's kind of what we expect from Nitro, happy teaming up and having the same core. It's consistency from them. Anything else to add on that, Roy? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I got one more point. I think the level of like the years of experience that Nitro and Happy have is probably much older than the average age in Challengers.
Probably true.
Do what you will with that information. Do what you will with that information. But it's just crazy to think about. But yeah, we can move on. We can move on.
Yeah, so we end the week with Turtle Troop versus SAD auction together with Terrific. Obviously, going to start with Turtle Troop SAD. A series again where another team, another series lets SAD's Ascent, which pretty much did get them through the qualifier. Ascent was a heavy played map for them, and it continues to be so with this comp that they're unwavering from, and TTR weren't scared. In fact, they have an interesting niche of their own in the comp department. It's Adder on the Deadlock. How do you feel about the series, and more specifically, the comp diversity? Because it felt like we had quite a bit in the series.
I'm starting to like I was having a conversation recently about the Ascent meta, actually, and it kind of makes sense why a lot of teams are starting to just like pull out super wacky, like I say wacky and like, but it's not a negative thing, just like wackies and like out of the realm of kind of what everyone's comfortable looking at and watching. And it kind of makes sense why teams are sort of starting to do this, right? Because like everyone knows how the KO comp plays now, right? So like the teams that pull out something that can make the enemy team uncomfortable gives them an edge because they know how both comps operate, but the enemy team can only know how their like the meta comp operates and whatever wacky comp that they pull out as well, if that makes sense. So like it kind of makes sense why teams are starting to like just pull out these like wild card comps, because like you play the meta comp, map's 50-50, dude. Like you can have an insane team, but like the map is just so fleshed out and the meta is just so like on the paper now that like anyone can play the map. Literally, you watch T3 teams, they can probably take Ascent 50-50 off like even some of the best teams, right? Like it kind of makes sense. I just don't know how effectively they're playing at. But what I will say
True.
is how funny that map was to watch. Like, I know that sounds weird, but like Ascent was really funny to watch because Sad was doing super well in the beginning. And it was just like bloopers after bloopers, dude. Like just like aftershocking ourselves, like flashing teammates, just a circus show at some point.
There are some moments, and it's fun. It's weird because when I think of this core comp, I like it. Or at the sad comp, core comp. Yep. I'm just hyped on my core pick.
I just love the
sad comp. It almost feels like they have too many options with their utility. And I think it got to a point where Turtle Troop were like, why are we even going to respect this? And B-Dog just started going wherever he wanted. No true Sentinel, not needed, but that means you need to have info and you have to have ideas what to do. And it felt like having overwhelming options with your utility, but none of that utility helps in late round in the sense of like flank watching, info gathering, outside of obviously Gecko. A lot of faces had to be peeked from Sad. They needed to use their eyes to gather this info. And I think that's where B-Dog just and Corey it's absolutely dominated that map. Sunset, close, definitely closer in Ascent. Another deadlock map from Adder. Still trying to figure out if I like that.
What, the deadlock on Sunset specifically?
And Ascent. It's growing on me.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just need a more sample size. Or more like combos with her utility is maybe.
Yeah. I think Turtle was kind of using Deadlock like a pseudo Sage where they were like on at least on their defense side, they were just using like the net to just like block off parts of the map early, like B main. They're just like walling off B main immediately. You know, and then on the attack side, they're using the grav net to like confirm targets, whether if there are players on the site, so they can like dedicate more util, like the Omen, Flash, and like it kind of made sense, like the way they were playing it. I can't tell for sure. I'm not confident in whether like if they just played a Sage, if they would get more value from the Sage, or if it's just like just having the deadlock and unknown, like making people uncomfortable again on Ascent, is that value is more important than just like running a Sage that could be on paper have more value. I don't know, but it's worked for them, so I can't even like hate on it.
Yeah, Adder just unfortunately -5 in the first kill for the stat department. Never a great number when you're the Sentinel and want to live. But overall, TTR guide the ship back to normality. Sad put up a fight. And then the final match, this one might have the least amount of notes. It's Oxygen versus Together We're Terrific. And what a series it was. 13-4 on Ascent for Oxygen and 13-2 on Sunset. I mean, Verno, you could pick anyone on this team and make a point of why they played well this week, which is a wild thought to have.
Yeah, I mean, instead of us having like repetitive conversations about how awesome Oxygen is and how good their players are, I would like to point out one specific player that is, in my opinion, is going to be like the small edge that Oxygen will need to like really challenge an Ascension and like almost guarantee their place in, you know, Partner League and VCT. And it's the Mitch differential. Like Mitch is starting to look confident, and he's starting to be like really comfortable in his role as the IGL on the team, and like he popped off on that first map. Like it was a straight up Mitch daddy carry, like straight up. Like that's just all it was. And like they're gonna need they're gonna need that like to challenge some of the best teams. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna need every edge they can get, and having like an IGL that's starting to pay less and less of the IGL tax on the team is gonna be that kind of edge that you need to have like all players firing on cylinders, you know?
Yeah, and his KO. One of my favorite agents to watch, Mitch John, and you can kind of see the comparison. Maybe his guy gets him in more awkward situations, but his KO numbers are
clean,
super impressive. It's
sure.
Really nice to see. And the cast on Oxygen continues to be a dominating number in nearly every series they play. Overall, good for Oxygen, bad for TWT. But TWT put themselves in a position where they should be okay moving forward. Speaking of moving forward, it is time to talk about some future topics. Let's dive into at least how I see it, Roy, and you can correct me if you'd like. The three teams that are starting to, I put find themselves. Maybe that's not the most comfortable way to put it. Teams that are starting to assert themselves might have been a better way to go.
Yeah, solidify their positions.
Moistep, Shopify, Moistep, Shopify, Oxygen, M80. I said Moistep, Shopify twice because they're in my head, I guess. So overall, safe to say the top three. I know we talked about Big Dogs episode 1. Safe to say they're emerging comfortably, though.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, okay, so Moist, Oxygen, M80, those are like obvious, right? Those are the big three. We refer to them as the big three. If you ever hear us saying big three, we're talking about those teams. Yep. But now we're starting to like, okay, TSM has crept up, right? They're kind of solidified themselves. Turtle Troops kind of solidified themselves. Like, dude, their Turtle Troops early wins are massive, man. And it's put them in a really good spot. And same that can be said for TWT. Like, they're in a great spot now. Like, even if they lose out, the chances of them entering relegation are extremely slim. Obviously, points are super important, so we do have to like have this conversation at some point. But like for now, going into week 4, I think those teams are kind of sitting pretty.
So now that we've covered the big three, the 3 big dogs, it's time to talk about the important weeks ahead for some of the other teams and the ones that stood out to Roy and I. Thinking Men and Glazers in the hot seat. Talk to me a little bit about Thinking Men, Roy. Why are they in this position? Can they get out of it?
Yeah, so for context, Thinking Men are 0-3, right? Minus 21 rounds. It's looking kind of dire. They're up against Core. Now, if they beat Core, that will kind of even up sort of like the bottom stage, right? It'll kind of evens up the teammate side of things. If Thinking Men lose against Core, it's going to be extremely tough because they'll have to defeat TWT in the final game to even have a chance to not be relegated. Like this upcoming match for week 4 for Thinking Men, in my eyes, is like a do or die. Like you win this match, you put yourself in a decent spot to challenge yourself out of that kind of hole that you might find yourself in. If you lose this upcoming match, it's doom and gloom for Thinking Men. So it's tough, man. It's a tough position to be in. It's a lot of pressure.
And it's pretty much a very similar situation, if not very identical to the Glazers. Negative 26, they play SAD. SAD are 1-2. Then they end their season with Winthrop. If the Glazers can beat both of them, in theory, they should be safe, barring Winthrop beating M80, which that's going to be an important game in and of itself. If they can do that, then they've kind of put the Glazers in a really tough spot.
Yeah.
So definitely a couple teams to keep your eye on, because this week determines what we're going to look at for relegation. And who knows, we could be welcoming some new teams in the near future. But long road ahead. You don't want to be in that situation at all. So this week is pivotal for that. And with that, that means it's time for us to predict. It's time for Roy and I to make our lovely predictions. I told him I'd kick off day 1. And
hit me.
So day 1, it's an okay day. Some could say a very important day for the Glazers. SAD versus the Glazers, TTR versus TSM. And
wait, before you predict,
yes,
I would like to remind everyone that SAD versus the Glazers is extremely important. So I'm holding Keith to a higher standard on this prediction. Yes. I'm holding myself to a higher standard on this prediction.
We must keep ourselves to a higher standard. With that in mind, I'm picking the Glazers. They know the situation they're in. Now, let me justify this. They know the situation they're in. Not only that, SAD's level of play has dipped a little bit. Their creativity is on the rise, but their team play, now that they're playing teams that seemingly are more consistent than perhaps other teams in past events they've played, SAD are still trying to figure things out. The Glazers, to me, have been playing consistent. We're harsh on them because we have a high standard for these players, but they are playing a decent level of Valorant that isn't dipping, it isn't rising, they're consistently there. Now for TTR versus TSM, I'm going to go against all logic. TSM's on the rise, they're looking great, Sim's getting integrated in the system, they have consistency, but I think TTR, and again, this is crazy, I really think TTR have figured it out. I felt like this last week was bumpy. It didn't really feel like TTR, even the SAD win. Like, it's B-Dog is B-God. You said it. You see him in chat. The big main points for this is Stellar seems comfortable. Corey and B-Dog are playing to their potential. And Weeded and Adder just need to show up. And I mean that in the sense of throwing their utility and being those good side anchors and rotators that they are. Adder ain't really rotating. Weeded's a little all over the place, which is cool. But I think if B-Dog and Corey continue this and Stellar has the calls that he had, they were really good at poking, prodding the map. That's how I'm feeling for that week. I don't know if that's fair, but I got Glazers TTR. Are you on board or are you going with the complete opposite?
All right. So the way I see it is you've definitely cooked something.
Yeah.
Now, is it a Michelin guide? Is it a Michelin star? I'm not entirely sure if you've cooked that kind of meal yet. I'm not ready to rate it that highly. I do like what you're cooking. I'm not going to give my opinion because it's my turn to do my predictions now. We've heard your predictions. Okay, let's go back. Let's reel it back. SAD versus the Glazers.
Yeah.
I got to go with the Zoomers, dude. I have to do it. I have to go with SAD. Even though mentally, I know this is a 50-50, maybe slightly skewed in the Glazers' side. Yeah. I know that. But SAD are just unpredictable. And they're good within that unpredictability. And their chaos is like kind of their comfort zone. And I got to respect that. I just have to respect it. So I'm going with the Zoomers, dude. I'm going with SAD for match number 1. 2, TTR versus TSM. Listen, I tasted your meal.
Yeah.
You know, it's good. It's good. I can't hate on the meal. But I'm gonna have to go next door over to TSM because I think I like what they're cooking up over there.
And that's fair. I think I am a little crazy for not going down the TSM door with you. And what about day 2? All right, you kick it off here. I want to see where you're at.
All right, so TWT versus Moist X Shopify. Moist, of course. It's not really. It's hard. It's really hard to make a concrete argument against Moist in the series. Like, yeah, maybe they've not been playing to the level they should be against teams that we rated kind of like lower than them. Mm-hmm. But dude, they lost 6 pistols and 3 bonuses and still won a series. Like, as long as they don't lose 6 pistols in this series, I think they'll be chilling. They'll be chilling. All right, number 2, Oxygen versus YFP. I'm liking what YFP is doing. Okay, I like their role swaps. I think it looks a lot more natural. Even like to my eyes, it looks more appealing to see these players on their roles that they're on. I think it suits them a lot more. But I just don't think they've recovered from the post era. So I'm gonna go with Oxygen on this one. They're looking good. Daddy Mitch is kind of starting to pop off in the system.
Yeah,
I think I'm leaning for Oxygen here.
Yeah, I'm on board with both those picks. We're in agreement. M80, Winthrop, I'll go first on this one, then I'll give you the last one. You'll see if you agree with me here. Say it with me with M80.
Yeah, okay.
M80. Yeah.
Go next.
I think Winthrop could. If they prove me wrong, I would love it. And we'll leave it at that. Core Think, Roy, I want you to lead this one. Because again, another one of those pivotal games. It's crazy how the start of the week, must-win series. Last day of the week, must-win series. For Thinking. And obviously for the Glazers. So I'm going to put their fate in your hands.
I can't believe you're making me go first on this one. That's actually insane. I think my heart is saying Core. I think I'm leaning Core on this one. I do like Thinking Men, though. I don't want to make it seem like I'm not a fan of Thinking Men, okay? Yeah. I like their curve. It's a nice curve. It's clean. They're starting to pop off. Players are getting comfy, right? There's a lot of like psyche shedding that they needed to do. And I think they're shedding quite nicely. And they're regrowing into this like kind of like new team. I'm liking how Lear's fitting into the system as well. But Core, man, after watching them last week, they've impressed me a little bit. They're growing on me a little bit. So I'm going Core for that one.
Yes, I am on board with the Core pick as well. A team that I think Zeldris, Ziff, deadly combo. If T-Dog pops off like we saw last week, we have another highlight reel week. I don't know if Think will be up to the task, but it's up to fate. It's up to whatever happens. Let us know what you think about our predictions in the chat. Good, bad, who was better? I don't know. We'll leave that up to you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in for episode 3 of Spike Down. We'll catch you next week. Enjoy the games.
Hello everyone and welcome back to VALORANT Challengers North America. It is week 4 and it's almost the end. We're approaching the end of this first split. Things have been going crazy, a lot of upsets, a lot of teams that have come up on top and stayed on top, but the competition just gets closer and closer. Today we have 2 very exciting matches. Going to be SAD against the Glazers, and our second match is going to be TSM against Turtle Troop. But before we start with those matches, I'm your host Dryad. I'm going to introduce my desk for today. Is going to be Uber and I hold shift joining me for the cast and the analyst desk. And Uber, another week, another time to see how the scores are going to start settling.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of getting into the danger zone for our teams towards the bottom of the groups, right? Without giving too much away about a recap, right? Teams like YFP are starting to sink towards that 6th spot. We are feeling a little better, honestly, about Thinking Man and the Glazers. Like, these are the 2 teams at the bottom of Group A and B, respectively. There's still a lot that can happen before we get to relegations, before we get to that mid-season. So for these teams struggling to find their wins, it's now or never.
And when you take a look at the standings shift, when you take a look at those groups, we have those favorite teams, the ones that are 3-0, like Moist, like M80, and the ones at the bottom, like Uber was saying, really, really struggling. As you see, Thinking Man and the Glazers, they're in a very, very difficult situation to see if they can get the last 2 wins.
Yeah, that is the big part, right? There's only a couple of games left for all of these squads, and I think you're seeing kind of a side of opposites come together here, because for together we were terrific. They were great in the opening 2 matches. They obviously got exposed last week by G2 Esports, but those 2 wins puts them in a pretty comfortable spot to, at worst, force a tiebreaker situation to avoid that relegation position. But the teams that have started off really slow, like Thinking Man and the Glazers, it really is do or die time. And when we look at Group B in particular today, the teams that are 1 and 2 are also not excused from that conversation of potential relegation, just due to the fact that, especially in Group B, I think the teams that are kind of 3, 4, 5, 6 are all super tight together in terms of overall skill and kind of what we've seen so far in terms of team performance. So yeah, very critical week here, especially for those that find themselves near the bottom of the leaderboard.
Just 1 win here could make the difference. Expecting sometimes maybe those teams that are 1 and 2 to start losing again, and then Thinking Man or the Glazers would not be at the bottom. So that it's really going to be a very, very difficult week for everybody to try to get those wins. But if you're watching Spike Down, you already got the chance to take a look at how those matches for week 4 are going to look like. But let's take a look once again. As I already said, I spoiled you guys. The first match for today is going to be SAD against the Glazers. The second one is going to be TSM and Turtle Troop. Every single team Uber is going to be playing again in a now or never situation for so many of them.
Yeah, but importantly, right, these first 2 games today are really important deadlock breaking matches in that Group B, right? This is where we sort of decide how that 4th through 6th in the group is going to pan out. The Glazers have only played the top 3 teams in their group, right? M80, TSM, and Turtle Troop. We haven't seen them against Winthrop or SAD. So a lot is on the table for those games. And I think that Turtle Troop versus TSM is a really compelling matchup. These 2 teams are both 2 and 1. They only differ in round differential by 1. We've got a veteran squad on Turtle Troop and a TSM team that is starting to take shape really quickly. Sim really coming into his own as a duelist and generating quite a bit of hype, I think, here at this tier of play. So that's a very exciting game, and I expect it to be really competitive and hopefully very close.
On top of that, I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, it's like, who wants to be the 2nd best team in Group B? Now we're officially going to know after this matchup today, so that should be fun.
We kind of have it for Group A and Group B, right? Where it is the clear favorite at the top, and then you're not actually sure how everything is going to end up closing out. But now let's dive into the first match that we have for today between SAD and the Glazers. A SAD that started playing very well. They got their first win, the first match that they played, and then they started taking those losses. Now, when you think of SAD, you think of this team that is very, very creative, and it's something that we've seen over more and more in Challengers, teams that are trying new things, especially on Ascent. It does feel like the craziest thing ever, the kind of competition that we're seeing for SAD, and we do see the ideas behind these compositions, but the question is, can they win this match against the Glazers, who have also had very, very close series against some of the strongest teams that we have right now? Uber.
Sorry, your boy Shifty put a dot in the chat there, but I think it was too late.
That was before.
I think that SAD are cooking on their Ascent comp. It's very intense, right? but it did not play out well against Turtle Troop last week. They really had a good feel for it. It feels like you're overloading a site with a lot of that utility. Just like the Gecko breach in general, very, very hard to sort of anchor on that site adequately. And you can be pushed off of the site really easily and forced into, a bit of a difficult retake. So the team's really good. I think that, we're definitely looking at people like Skarn and Moobs also, that's Winthrop. Skarn obviously to step up and take a more key role here. This is the matchup I think that is going to expose your duelists to a lot of the action, depending of course on the map selection here. But, we did not see a whole lot outside of, like a pretty strong comp, I think, from SAD. I think it is definitely pretty scary. This is the kind of team that gets good results on Icebox as well, which bodes well. The Glazers let this one through against M80 and it really hurt them. They had a decent attacking side. I liked the lurks that they had, but in general, their protocols for hitting sites were weak. There was gaps in the mollies, gaps in the smokes. Xander was allowed to sneak through a lot of the time and just come from unexpected angles and really catch them out. So we need to see the Glazers really tighten up a lot of that, a lot of those hard hits coming on in here. And for SAD, we've sort of seen them on this map, I think back to the Winthrop game, which was a non-game, on Icebox, for example. So very, very strong team. I do think that, it's like Skarn had an off week last week. I think there's no other way around it. Need to see him really step up.
And Shift, now on the other side, when you get the chance to take a look at these two teams, when you take a chance to look at these two rosters and you look at how the Glazers have been playing, they're always so close. But one key difference maker for SAD that I think could make sure that is once again a close match ending up on the other side winning, the side of SAD, is going to be Bob. Bob has been the most consistent player on the squad. Even when they're losing, she's always there. She's always performing, giving those assists, giving that support. So I think it's going to be a key piece for today to make sure that SAD get that win.
Yeah, and I think most importantly is the consistency is also going to come with a lot of high praise here, especially considering the schedule that came through. Like we said, there was, a good start to the group stage, the map 3 win over Winthrop, but, the Turtle Troop series not quite going their way. It's one of those situations that you look at them and say, okay, there's opportunities here to where, there are going to be some star players that have really not been talked about before. And Bob has definitely been one of those players at this point. Week 2 was a great one, even in the loss, like we mentioned, to M80, which was, I think, the most impressive part. And maybe where I think a lot of us looked at Bob and said, yep, this is a story worth telling, because everyone else has been getting absolutely ran through. But the individual performance really did kind of stick out, I think, in a lot of people's minds, even though the result did not go the way SAD would have wanted. So, yeah, I think it's very appropriate to kind of paint the picture. And I think this breaking it down week by week by week again shows that there is persistence towards where you're going to get Bob's performance from, and it's going to be mostly in that support role, helping out, try to make sure that the damage is done and you're able to at least help tally a couple of assists here or there, at least a couple of times per round. So yeah, really good performance at this point and definitely a player to watch out for.
And since we already taking a look at this team of SAD, I do want to talk about the two duelists that we're going to see today. The potential head-to-head for some of them. Skarn and Zachary have big shoes to fill today in terms of making sure that they're keeping that consistent performance on the duelist role when we do get the chance to see it, Uber, because it's been not the best for them, and we obviously just love hyping up these players. We love seeing them succeed, but they might be the difference maker for either the Glazers or SAD on this match.
Yeah, we talk about Zachary as the duelist, but he only played Sentinel in their last week's game, right? Because on Icebox, they go with sort of double controller and they actually do away with the Sentinel, with the duelist entirely. But Zachary's he's on the Killjoy, he's picking up the operator, he's got some really nice lurks, some really big clutches as well, up against veterans like Nismo and Nitro, and he's actually winning them out. So this guy's got a really good head on his shoulders. He is extremely sharp, and he's the kind of player that this team needs to lead them. He's the guy that, took TSM to overtime on Breeze in their match by going and having that insane ace. That's the star power on this Glazers team that you can rely on. I think on the other side, Skarn, we've seen, I think, fluctuations in confidence, honestly. This SAD team is not one that actually has historically had to lean on Skarn to find success. They have some really interesting comps, and fitting Skarn in there was a solo Yoru on Ascent and stuff like that. This is not sort of normal, right? A lot of teams don't necessarily have the ability to just to turn their duelists into Yoru and try and open up these opportunities. So I think Skarn has a tough job on this team to sort of fit into these systems and these comps that they're probably still getting under their belt as well. So, I kind of want to give the guy the benefit of the doubt there. And I think Skarn's pretty aware of like some of the criticism that's come the way of Sad and his way, and he even said in an interview like, hey, love me or hate me, I'm here to stay and I'm here to show what I can do. So keep that attitude going. And again, really, you're going to be having to stand up against this Glazers team, who I think have a bit more depth than especially after the M80 game we maybe gave them credit for.
Yeah, I think you put a really good picture, especially based off the Ascent random agent swap that came through, because across every other map that we've seen Sad play, you kind of know what you're going to get. Yeah, some of the compositions aren't what we would call set meta, but that was the first set of games that we had seen at Ascent where they tried something completely brand new and different, and the performance did not improve, candidly speaking. And I want to see them go to work to the past, whether it was through the qualifiers or the opening week. That's what I want to see from the Sad team today, because it feels like it's just a little bit too late in the process here in this group stage to be fiddling around with new compositions that you don't know are fully battle tested yet.
Yeah, I would just say, to cap that off, I don't want to see this team rely on Bob. I don't think that is a ticket forward for Sad. We've talked about how consistent she is, which is great, but often her role is really as a facilitator. She often is creating entries and sort of winning gunfights, 1v2s, which is awesome. But, if you're leaning on that too much, I think that like a lot of your main game plan has already kind of fallen apart. I'd love to see her as another option, an ace in the sleeve perhaps. But, you really need to see these side hits, again, with these kind of complicated compositions pay off. This is a competitive team. That Turtle Troop game was great. I think Turtle Troop cooked a little bit with the deadlock comp on 2 maps.
I agree.
Maybe a little bit.
That's fine. I really am enjoying it, seeing teams that don't try and just play the standard KO comp on Ascent, for example. And I actually don't hate, seeing the deadlock on Lotus, especially if you can cut off like A-Link on the attacking side. So there's a lot of play to be had there, but it requires your whole team to adjust a little bit around that.
In between Skarn and Zachary, something that we've seen for both of them has been playing the Yoru, but they played it in different maps. So I would love to see that head-to-head between the two Yorus. I don't know what the chances of that are going to be, right, looking at the maps, but they are two teams that are very creative, that have brought a couple different things, trying to bring their own twist to either the compositions that we're used to seeing. Maybe Bind, right? I'm thinking that too, but we have to see also, depending on how where those maps take us. Now, let's take a look a little bit on the Glazers and what they've been doing, because we've talked about it. They had very close matches, and Precision actually made a tweet about it, talking about how close so many of these series against, again, the strongest teams have been, almost taking it to overtime at 13-11. The only map that they've won is a 13-11 against Turtle Troop, and then you see 11-13 on Lotus, 13-15 on Breeze against TSM. It's always so close, Uber.
Yeah, look, and I mean, this is, I don't know, I kind of feel like, especially if you're a team that's sort of coming together, maybe sort of, and you're a little bit newer, like closing out those games is an entirely different skill set to getting yourself in a position to win in the first place. I think overtime is a completely different game of Valorant, and it's really easy to overthink what you're trying to do in those overtimes. We've actually seen it happen with a few teams. I want to think back to the Sad Winthrop game that went to multiple overtimes there, with a lot of just like really abnormal circumstances in game states as opposed to like regulation. This, I guess, doesn't even really tell the story about how close the Glazers are, because unfortunately, the map differential against them is pretty wide. They're very wide. Round differential, they're -26, but that has a lot to do with getting spanked by M80 and only winning 13 rounds over the course of that series. Against TSM, like they had that really close 15-13, and against Turtle Troop, Lotus and Bind were both 11-13. It's actually won the Bind map. So I agree. Like, this is a team that can put themselves in a position to close out, but they have to land the plane, and they've lost some really crucial maps. It's the only reason they're at 0-3 right now, I feel, but that was against all the best teams in the group. Now you have Sad and Winthrop, who look a little bit more exploitable here. So if you can really tighten those protocols, I talked about them a lot, especially on the Icebox map against M80, those need to get tightened up to really compete with those top teams. If we've seen them develop at all from that point last week, then I really feel I predicted these guys. I predicted Glazers to win this week. I think only me and Seaside did. And I know it's a bit of an outside one, but I've watched this team develop. I've watched these games get closer. If you only look at last week's match against M80, you take nothing away from it, really. I think this team is going to win today.
And we're gonna see, because it might depend on when we're headed or where we're headed. Let's take a look at the map select, and we were talking maybe Eurobind, maybe that's gonna be a chance, but guess what? We're not a chance at all. It's Split, Sunset, and Lotus team or maps that we've seen for both of the teams. I think there's one per team that they haven't played just yet. So very recently we did get the chance to see the Split for the Glazers. Maybe taking a look at that might give us an indication of where the series might start.
I mean, I'm very interested to see how Sunset plays out. First of all, this is the Split map is a Glazers pick, big time. This team loves to overload a ramp on both sides, attack and defense. Actually, it's something that M80 took quite a few rounds to figure out. So that's something worth bearing in mind. I think Zachary's very good at the solo A lurk on the attacking side here as Cypher. So he's just a very good player at playing as an individual, I think, and sort of creating opportunities where there are none otherwise. So feel pretty good about that map. The Sunset map here, of course, we actually saw, Sad win against Turtle Troop. I feel pretty confident for them on this map, especially because we've seen so little. Lotus to me is an absolute wild card, though. It could go either way, and I'm a little surprised that the Glazers didn't want to play Icebox here. I know Sad have been very good, but I wasn't that upset seeing them against a team like M80. They pushed M80 further on that map than a lot of teams have been able to.
I would like to see this going to that third map of Lotus, right? Because this is one of the only compositions that you do see being played pretty standard for SAD. And the Glazers, they played this map of Lotus just one time against the kind of crazy composition of the Neon for the SAD Turtle Troop.
The Corey
so
Neon.
we're gonna. Yeah, exactly. So they haven't played that standard composition, and that could be, once again, the one thing that makes the difference. But let's jump into the agent select. Let's see if these same compositions for Split are going to remain the same. We have seen some changes, right? For the Glazers, they did change a Split composition from the second week to the third week. So I'm curious if they're going to keep the one that we just saw recently shift, or is going to be maybe just going back to the first one that we ever saw.
Yeah, they've had a little bit of identity crisis in terms of what they really want to do in terms of controller. I think in particular, obviously the breach was used. That's what you're kind of alluding towards, and they kind of strayed away from that. Yeah, not really finding much success with it. So now you go back into not playing an Asher, you play an Omen instead, but same outfit, just different color essentially. So I don't know. It's one of those things that I think just based on the regularity that we've seen Glazers play this, I think they're starting to really kind of feel out what ideas they want to put together. I think it's just down to execution. I think for both these two teams, and we could sit here and break down how the maps have gone historically, but like we saw from Precision's tweet rather, this is just all about executing. They have to find themselves into a position just to be executable, when it matters the most, without question, because both teams have really struggled in full purchases. Both teams have really struggled closing out series. So if this one does stay tight, as I think we expect it to, this is all got to be about just making sure you execute on the rounds that matter the most.
Well, my cat is very excited to see how this agent select is gonna look like. So let's actually jump into the agent select for this map of Split. And yeah, we talked about the changes. We talked about the little things that have been the same, that have remained a little different. The double initiator, the Uber and Ship. We see the composition. We see that the two players that are going to be playing this duel this time around is going to be Drone and Skarn on the Raze. And I'll leave the match to you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much, Triad. Look, and Drone has always been the kind of player that has often, even back on the TSM days, right, flexed between duelist and initiator, right? He was playing
big
a lot
time.
of
Yep.
Phoenix back then, right? If you recall. So not a huge surprise to see this setup. We saw Drone, of course, on the Raze in the past here. And this is the Zachary on the Cypher comp, which historically, Zachary has been an excellent Sentinel player. So this is playing out basically the way I expected to here. On the side of Sad, right, Bob on the Sky was something we are going to be keeping an eye on. But like I mentioned, Shift, I don't want to see them rely on Bob to bail them out of some of those compromising situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other side of it with Sad starting on the offense is how much can they really stretch out this defense of the Glazers? Because, what we've often seen with players moving away from using the Astra and instead going to the Omen is that you just get that toggle of smoke at mid. Can Sad put a little bit extra pressure on the Glazers defensively to have them maybe have to spend maybe a trap cage somewhere over towards the middle of the map or towards one of the top towers, just not allowing Zachary to stay rooted and planted on one of the two sites, whichever he prefers. I think more often than not, you expect him to be playing over towards B, but we've seen different variations from a lot of our best Split teams that are out there. And that's also kind of the beauty in a certain way of, hey, we are now 4 weeks in. You've gotten a lot of film, not just of yourself to watch, but of other teams that have actually mastered some of these maps, so to speak. So it'll be curious to see what kind of inspiration has been pulled over these last handfuls and what both these two teams bring to the table. Because, you know, even though the Glazers have played this map in the competitive regular season, this is not an unfamiliar map nor an unfamiliar composition for SAD Esports. They played this a lot back in February. So I expect that they're probably just going to go to the tried and true playbook of what worked for their qualifier run.
Yeah, look, a great point. I think that like it's easy to look at just the Challengers stats and forget that we aren't even that far into Challenges. It's only been a few weeks, and there's only one match a week that these teams sort of get to play. And you mentioned about the variations, and you will see that a fair bit, of course, whether it's like Riku or Zachary here on defense, sort of operating on that B side, and quite often we see the Sky sort of moved into that position to try and assist them. Coburg here trying to get a warm-up. Sorry, mate. Caught you red-handed. SAD here, of course, know that there's a lot on the line. This is one of the most important games in this group. They want to get to parity. They want to get to 2-2 and make sure the Glazers are locked into that bottom spot here in Group B. A loss here for SAD, just to be clear, would throw this group into utter chaos all the way from fourth through sixth.
Well, and I think the thing that's most compelling about that is there's a realistic world here where if the Glazers find a way to win, they would go into a winner moves on matchup versus Winthrop next week, because let's be candid, Winthrop has to play against M80, and I think everyone and their mom is predicting M80 for that one. So, you know, there is a very realistic possibility here to, if the Glazers find themselves a W, they can control their own destiny and try to avoid relegation after what was a really tumultuous start where, like I said, on the other side, SAD loses this matchup, they still have to play up against TSM, and that's kind of one of those things of who knows, like that could be a tiebreaker galore situation depending on the results of that one, and there is still the possibility of, you know, there being a three-way tiebreaker of teams to make themselves either into the playoff or out and relegated. So lots of things kind of on the line, and you know, even though this is maybe not the most marquee matchup in terms of players on the list or teams on the board, it is a pivotal one here for Group B, just to try to again assert a little bit of extra dominance towards that push for mid-season playoffs.
Big love to Zachary for the Trafalgar Law hat there. He's always got some particular headwear on. Really getting the character here as Cypher. And a guest appearance, of course, from Riku's cat. Thank you very much for that. That's really set the tone for this game, I think, now coming on in. And at standard, Viper Lurk will over towards the B side here might be accompanied with a hard hit from SAD.
And you don't really have much here besides a trap wire. It's going to be a late rotation from a heavy stack at mid. You know, depending on what they see or maybe don't see here at middle, they may just gut check call this, and wow, this is perfect timing from the defense of the Glazers. Trapwire will expose some of this play. A little bit of paint shells plus some extra spam fire coming through, but the take is on, and we have a pistol battle.
Scar now trying to wrap around, but from heaven, there's just too many angles to cover here. Darkest now, 2v3, nice little right click there. Zachary's a long way across the map. It's just precision. They still opt to take the face. Zoe not in a position to trade that at all, and time has been bought at the very least for Zachary to get in position. 21 HP, basically dead to a body shot here as Zoe, and Zachary is convinced. So the action is still going to be here over at the B site. There might be a timing here. Zachary spotted, but great correction, and the Glazers get themselves the pistol.
That's a simple timing right there. I mean, if SAD hits that even a fraction of a second, maybe a little bit earlier, they don't get caught by that quick rotation from mid defensively from the Glazers. And more importantly, because of the trap wire exposing and the Vipers while still going up, a couple of the members just commit to getting onto site. They don't even bother fighting high to low ground. They're on to contest for any spike plants to go down. So really efficient defensive rotation from the Glazers through mid-map. And now a chance for them to try to really assert their presence over the course of the outside of the map with SMGs and an outlaw play.
Zachary playing now with that outlaw in hand over at A. And will be Coburg to try and, again, in sort of classic style, dig something up over here. That cam already got broken on the A side for SAD, though.
Yeah, and that's not really kind of a moot point in certain ways. Like, this is just to try to keep the defense a bit more interested. And this walk-up is finding a lot of advancement, but the problem is there is a trap wire down here and a couple defenders nearby. Most importantly, Drone, who can just turn around, throw a boombot into paint shells and just shut this down completely.
Will they be ready for it, though? They heard the ropes. They made sound on ropes. You're kidding. Okay, they're going to try and overwhelm, but Drone's going to be able to spray them down. Wall comes up, but Drone holds his ground on the other side of it here. Bob able to come out there and get away with murder. There's much more to be done here. Zachary still playing safely back towards screens, and this spike is headed towards the middle of the map, but Riku will move on the steps.
Yeah. I was about to say, that's actually not a bad trade at all for SAD, considering what it looked like it was going to be a blunder for a moment, but weapons collected really do not provide much more opportunity. Glazers in a good position, most of it anchored by Zachary with that Outlaw. And I don't know if he was the one to destroy the cam early with the Outlaw or not, but I don't think it would have made much of a difference whether he had an Outlaw, an SMG, even just a long-range pistol. That was just a good lockdown play from the Glazers, and a lot of that just coming off the gut check reaction of reading not just a couple of players, but nearly the whole team moving through mid-map and finding a way to out-trade them.
It's the same spot he uses, so he probably just spams that location early, but you can see it from rafters over at A. So either way, Zachary very much ready for it. Very standard Cypher cam here. It's about to get hot and heavy pretty early, potentially. Slower though for the Glazers.
Lots of pings. Yeah, I was going to say there's lots of pings, but it doesn't make a difference. There's so many counter flashes here. And ooh, nice little backup from Sad. Finding the first couple eliminations and what looked to be a really good kind of presence play for the side of the Glazers, trying to get aggressive and catch him off guard. The patience works out, and now Sad at the numbers.
And flash there, information for Sad now that there is a fourth player over at B. Darkus will hold the angle here. Zachary needs to try and find a way to get value out of this Outlaw. Good. Oh my goodness. Zachary gets the one. That'll be it though. Sad get themselves on the board.
Another timing moment, because honestly, the read is really, really well read by TG. They find themselves, okay, there's presence up in towards B main. They throw the paranoia, they throw the guiding light, and then they try to hit it with SMGs. But it really just comes down to the fact that Coburg avoids the flashes and holds an angle to contest the play through that B main tunnel. So really well done from Coburg just to kind of keep a little bit of an extra eye on it and staying safe from all the incoming utilities. But that was kind of the expected result. After the pistol, the anti-ecos won. The bonus doesn't come through. Now we've got our first full gun round, and we've got the potential of some early seekers here, Uber.
Somebody though, at least get some information. Sad more than happy to play past this. Smokers, well, we already see Skarn get past it. There is still a trapwire to contest with. Page also deployed over here on this B side. He's gonna force Riku off the angle ship.
Yeah, and this is curious because, wow, I was about to say, this doesn't have to be a commitment from Sad. They could try to pull the defense over, but they do collect an elimination in the process. Just a bit of an overpeak from Riku back through the backside of screens, and now with plenty of time on the clock, with the opportunity to scout out extra information and have seekers, there's a chance that Sad could kind of throw these seekers out through mid, try to get a read to see where the Glazers' defense is, and then just hit wherever the seekers don't go.
The Glazers got no information from that. They don't even know how many people are at B. They just re-cleared mid. But again, they've not played aggressively on any other part of the map here, so Sad have a window to make some plays here. Nicely done. Double swing here in B, mate. The seekers will come out in mid, just as you said.
Found one.
Yeah, and this is such a good call. You're just going to keep the sky behind at male just to make sure that you can deal with this tower play. It forces the Glazers to have to rotate deep through screens, and already controlling a tower means that this defense really cannot contest this spike plant. So yeah, really well done. It's just down to how successful is this lurk from Bob, because at the moment, timing is looking pretty ideal, and the first shots will land. Glazers in trouble.
No heaven control either for the Glazers. They had two players stacked up in screens behind an attacking Omen smoke. Zoe here can really just hold this angle and wait for any action. He's about to find out there's no one really playing heaven except right behind him there. Timing though. Oh, it hurts. So he's still able to find the one.
Enemy remaining.
But here's Scar now going to hold his ground there just outside of screens and precision.
3 for 3.
All alone here. Seekers might have been thrown out, but you already know where they're playing from. And Sad with that late rotation plus the tasty lurk take their second.
Yeah, and that is all just a byproduct of the fact that you get the elimination over through B. I don't think the play changes much if they don't collect the kill when we're in a 5v5, just because they do force a lot of defensive utility to come out early to B main to try to stop what looks to be an early hit. But that was never really the full intention. Sad just throw a couple of things in there to keep the Glazers interested. They collect the kill, and the Seekers mid-map, it's the perfect isolation. You get to read that two players are at B, follow it into tower. You've got big screen control by playing through A tower. It's just perfect lockdown from Sad, just controlling the map. And wow, this battle towards B main is pretty laborious. Both teams really committing a lot off the opening break-off to see if they can find success controlling it, but this round going to be hard-pressed to do much with, as the Glazers are just stuck on pistols with one Bucky.
Zachary at least has been able to play forward for some info on A. We'll see absolutely nothing. Zoe here probably just to time this swing alongside Coburg. No real mid-presence for Sad this round. They've actually varied their mid-presence drastically round to round. They leave it open in the pistol rather, and they play 3 up there in the second.
Yeah, this is one of those it's only a matter of time type situations, and Maybe Precision can find something with the Frenzy, but yeah, no nonsense here for Sad. Using all the utility just to make sure they get this one cleanly. Precision's got absolutely nowhere to go. I mean, he was mollied, he was flashed, he was boom botted at. It's just everything was going his direction. And this looks like a very well maybe a flawless round here for Sad.
You're going to see why the Glazers do want to play more aggressively into B main. Because once that utility starts coming in, no individual anchor can really comfortably stand on the site. And now Zachary praising the sun, as it were.
A little dark in the vents though, bitch. Not gonna lie, not much sun praising going on in here.
Oh, well, now they know exactly where he is, and Skarn will get the job done. That's a big momentum builder for Sad now. Not a single gun lost here, and Yazeni flawless. And that's exactly the kind of thing you want to build off for a strong attacking half.
Yeah, I mean, the eco's not bad at all, obviously, but I think more importantly, you know, if the Glazers commit to kind of keeping this play from the Cypher over towards the A side of the map, they may need to reconsider, just flat out. Just, I don't know, this battle towards B main has been, like we mentioned, very laborious, and I would say that with this setup, what we're currently seeing, this is probably the last time the Glazers try this. If they don't find success with this heavy-handed B main play, I expect to see a swap up where Zach moves over to play B defensively, and then eventually you kind of get the Sky over to try to make some presence happen over towards A ramps with things like Guiding Lights and Trailblazers, because at the moment, Sad Esports are just getting so much map control so quickly.
Zoe trying to get some info about elbow presence there by the looks. And you see in the Zippo replay, and at the start of this round, that camera from Coburg instantly gets blown up by Zachary. So he's actually pre-aiming the spot while the gates are up, because you can see the camera there. Just a small detail now as all of Sad drift across towards the B side of the map. The mid's been cleared here by the Glazers. How do they make use of this info?
Yeah, that's the big P, because, you know, the longer this takes, the more that information kind of just goes a bit awry. You know, you don't know if there's going to be any more players here. So now Drone, the showstopper, is going to have to rotate over a little bit later towards top side at B. If Sad does commit through this, which they're not fully committed to yet, but I imagine this will be a blast pack showstopper entry here for Skarn, maybe behind a Guiding Light if they can get Bob back over.
We've seen this from Bob a lot. She loves to lurk that middle part of any map. Midway through the round, he's at the showstopper. Paranoia.
What, pardon me?
Oh, goodness, that is a wayward rocket if I've ever seen one. Skarn gets punished there. Rookie getting picked off the rip. Great little swing there from Precision. This info might not help Coburg, and he's not alive to see it. Bob, though, finally activates on that flank up mid, and is able to find two. Zachary again, the arduous task of dragging himself over from A.
He's got a little bit of high ground. He's going to have plenty of time to try to sniff this out. And I mean, this is already a lot of clearance. You don't know 100% where Zoe's gone to, but Zach has got a pretty good read on it. The flash reveals, but he gets the first, but not going to read the second. So Bob's late flank comes through perfectly, and I'm not going to lie, initially I thought Skarn just got absolutely cheated. That rocket looked like it landed between the feet of Riku back at the site. Not quite apparently, but the trades still come out in favor of Sad thanks to Bob's play.
Interesting round though, because the Glazers cleared mid with that Trailblazer. And Drone was starting to take some control, but I think the side hit comes at just the right time to pull Drone away. Now, if he doesn't have a showstopper shift, I don't know if he actually responds that quickly. Maybe he tries to, you know, push a quick flank. But had he remained in mid, he would have seen Bob coming. And I really think the Bob element is what unraveled the Glazers there, completely losing heaven control on B.
Yeah, and the timing is absolutely correct, by the way, Mitch. I mean, it is one of those things that, yes, you do get clearance from the Trailblazer from Precision, but that was so long ago, and you don't have a Poison Cloud set up by Ange. You don't have an extra dark cover from Riku that be played because he's playing on top of the site. So, like, the exchange of utility for the Glazers at mid-map is simply throw something out from Precision and then use that as a chance to read and react. They don't have anything that's really anchoring down mid at all. So it is a bit kind of puzzling, I think, because we've seen some of the most successful defensive setups with this composition in VALORANT Challengers NA of you put your Poison Cloud down there, you substitute it when the poison's all the way expired with the dark cover, and you just never give the offense a chance to get anything red, through mid. But that really hasn't been a focus here for the Glazers, who now find themselves back on a limited buy. And like I said, after this timeout, I wouldn't be surprised if the Glazers move Zach over to hard anchor B and try to get Riku involved over towards mid a little bit more once they get weapons in hand again.
Riku has a Sheriff here. Cage triggered. And early on is playing a bit further forward towards B main. Maybe hoping to hear some fast play. Gets nothing. The camera from Zach just up ahead of Coburg, and there it is, maybe the trade position able to push forward here now. Take that all control. This frees Zachary up to head over towards the B side. Seekers though from Sad, all over at B, so maybe just getting an idea of how many people are anchoring this site. Here comes the hit.
Yeah, but these two SMGs are pretty formidable. Yeah, there's a handful of flashes, but you've got a Sheriff and a Stinger out, and they're going to find success with this. The Glazers pulling together a pretty heroic round. Now you've got the AR picked up in play, 3v2.
Those he's gonna have to sneak around that left-hand side. The flash timing is superb. Beautiful stuff there from Precision. Now Bob in the 1 versus 2, but the swings don't come at the right time. Ange.
Bold.
Okay. Gonna throw the pit down. That makes sense. Bob might opt to swap in for a Phantom at 1 HP. This is a big ask for anyone, especially for dumping. What? Stinger unreal, Bob! Has an extra sensory perception somehow. The Zippo clutch comes up for Sad when that round could easily have gone the other way.
That is such a sick read from Bob, because honestly, Ange plays that perfectly. You get the decay down, you don't have a great weapon, just a Stinger, but it doesn't matter what you're holding on to when the opponent only has 1 HP, and then that little push back in towards B main, they kind of just barely pass by one another, but the prediction from Bob that, hey, if Ange had already popped this backside tower, and he's not immediately on this double stacked box, he has to be playing at B main, and just a little bit of pre-fire connects. That is a massive swing, saving the round from what looked to be a very formidable setup, considering it was just a couple of a limited buy from the Glazers. So now Sad continued to build on that economy. They're 5-2 up, and this round very well may dictate the entire rest of the half if Sad can find a way to win it.
The Glazers have made the variation, though. Shift, you called it. Zachary now anchoring that B site. This does mean, though, that Coburg's camera at A is untouched because there's no one from the Glazers actually on the side itself. They can't even see it. And that camera looks all the way into screens, can also see what's happening at rafters. So tons of info for the Sad Cypher. Out in now, some util getting exchanged. Trailblaze came down from Precision. Oh, that's not good.
Wow. I mean, that was the wild card this round, Mitch. The offensive operator out, and it nearly gets exactly what it was dictated towards. Just an extra peek from the Glazers. We talked about it. Their focus through mid-map has only been small utility from Precision. This time it's nearly a double swing right into the waiting arms of Zoe, but the shot doesn't land, and now the Glazers have numbers and a formidable setup as they just swing out of A ramps and again just catch Coburg off just by simple timing.
There's that A ramp pressure here, the mild overload. The Glazers, though, see more. Precision's having to find an opener. Beautiful. Darkus tries to step to the site, but the spike goes loose. And it's just Skarn now. The upside for Sad, of course, being that outside of Zoe, they have the credits. Keep the guns flowing on in, but that is an absolutely crucial round for the Glazers to begin some stabilization.
Yep, and a lot of it, I think, maybe not necessarily works out as intended because the whole idea of the post-timeout call is to get Zach established over towards B, but instead it's just kind of a double swing at mid that catches out a really bizarre operator that I don't think the Glazers would have expected, but that opening elimination changes the entire dynamic of the round because at that point now all of a sudden you can't hit through mid if you're Sad. You don't really have much in ways of stretching the defense out in other ways, so it kind of just crumbles from there. But now we're really going to have a chance to see how this all works out. Same B main presence, largely from Sad. This is the first time that they'll have any sort of a long read on what Zach's setup is going to look like, and the Trailblazer will take care of the trap wire, and they burst through the cyber cage, no worries.
Skarn makes it through. Trap wire was too high for the Trailblazer, but I think they got it with the paint shells prior. Here comes Darkus, gets caught off kilter. Zachary able to find a key first killer. That's why you put this man at the B site, baby. He's locking it down for the Glazers. Dark cover now, Bob. Can't really do much about that trap wire there either. That is there to stay.
Last player standing.
Nice upswing. The Glazers really putting those together quite well over the last couple of rounds.
And I don't know if this is like just Zach getting some lucky timing, or maybe it's just kind of a coincidence, or if he's dictatively using it, but Riku throws out that paranoia and Zach swings with it to kind of use it as a moving smoke to clear out the backside of the site. You kind of saw the visual deterrent there. As soon as it started to come across,
shield, right?
Yeah, it's exactly it. He kind of walks with it, and all of a sudden, Zach's in the middle of the site, and the player sitting backside screen is like, well, where did he come from? That was kind of sick. And I don't know if that was 100% a dictated play or not, but if it was, that's some sick micro from Zach to find himself 3 in the lockdown, which now Sad have to have a conversation about, because as much as you mentioned, they're getting some value out of this spy cam over towards the A side if Zach's not deleting it. how are they going to execute through it? And are they getting enough information or non-information to know that they can isolate whoever happens to be over at A if they don't see this kind of Cypher v Cypher battle that we had persisting in the first 7 rounds? So I mean, there's a lot to talk about here if you're sad.
There's nothing to see at A is the problem, because no one is showing out of screens. Although I will say, the very round after the operator gets dropped by SAD and obviously can't be recovered because they get smashed, the Glazers just contact with 2 players in the mid straight away. So they don't need to clear that. They see it all. They actually have, you know, Ange, who is playing from sort of top mid, just looking straight down.
Yeah,
so that gives them a lot of peace of mind about this impending B here.
Well, the other thing about this is you have a limited buy foot of Viper's Pit to kind of neutralize the lack of long-range presence. Paint shells being exchanged, but Zoe will make their way through it, no worries, and this is going to be a hard commit, probably through some sort of a paranoia combo, and there it is.
Just the variation to stick him on top of the box. Great timing for Riku. That's 2. Already presence from mid, and the Seekers are going to garner a lot of information and it'll confirm that SAD are all grouped up here.
I mean, they're not out of this round, though. That's the thing. You know, you're in a 3v4 situation. The opening trade doesn't go your way, but you had a limited buy, and now all of a sudden you consider, how do we play this out with a Vandal, a Guardian, and a Stinger? And there's a lot of options. I think most in particular, the middle of the map has to be where the focus has to go here if you're looking at this from SAD. You know that you haven't really been deterred outside of anything besides just kind of shoulder checks, but it looks like instead they're going to kind of take the long route around and see if they can maybe isolate over towards A ramps. But this is not the setup that you want, trying to challenge ramps. A Stinger and a Vandal, yeah, this would have to rely a lot on Darkus kind of getting bait and switched for.
The Seekers to Zachary might have confirmed here a hard B hit, so he plays back in spawn, and they've got to re-clear all of this laboriously. The camera, though, going to help
30
hugely.
seconds left.
Yeah.
He knows that that trap player in A main is still active, so he knows he'll be up ramps, or he's going to get a confirm here, and he does.
Yeah, and that Cypher cage will also slow things down just a touch because it does form a bit of a one-way as they cross, but good isolation, dark cover, clearance out screens while also simultaneously making sure that it comes over the top, and now you get the Viper's Pit to try to establish this plant. And wow, trying to clear this is going to be difficult. You have no boom bot, no paint shells, one molly, you've got no precision utility. They're going to have to just do this by running right through it.
Yeah, and that's where it gets scary against all these weapons. Both playing on the outside of the pit. This is a dangerous swing. Slow. But the Seekers come out now. This is going to tell you all you need to know about that screen's presence of Zachary. Zoe steps up. He's going to be able to challenge this, and Bob is going to be there as well. Beautiful. Just a beautiful turnaround in this round, and the Viper Pit expertly employed. Precision now caught on the outside looking in.
Yeah, I think more importantly, just to kind of execute on this, it's also the fact that the dark cover placement comes through perfectly. No one gets caught after the spy cam initially gets a lot of information. And timing is going to be an issue, especially with mollies on the post plant. So yeah, great execution from SAD. I mean, that was a very winnable round, and I'm surprised they went that direction and they didn't try to cut over through mid simply due to the Stinger. But hey, you get the read, you force the hand of the Glazers to move their defense over towards B, and you punish them for it. That is a very heroic round from SAD, and now there's a chance that they can really blow open this first half.
Just as the Glazers start to build ahead of steam, Riku, they've been able to pick up an operator here. So you really can hold against some sort of aggressive play towards A, but again, there's no ramps presence, and there's no Cypher util at ramps to sort of give you an idea of what's going on, but you see that cross well and truly. Riku knows they've got to sit here. There is a small gap in that Cypher cage, and they might be able to exploit it. Trailblazers to clear heaven here. Precision probably moves in right after it.
Oh, but does get pushed off. Just too many numbers to deal with. Don't want to give anything away, especially with Riku still holding down an operator, but whiffs on it. So now all of a sudden this site's gone. The only real hope you've got is the fact that drone's hitting a flank, but the neural theft will call this out, and the post plant likely moves into screens for this.
I mean, you can just overload this now. Yeah, these players operated there on the ground. Zachary sees the angle, but paranoia is good.
What?
Not good enough. Apparently, Precision able to mow him down. This now puts the Glazers at a player advantage, and you can work with this. A third for Precision, but how much further can they go? Not enough, really. It's evened up at the very least. The Glazers, probably no real reason not to go for this. 2 versus 2, but Bob has the timing. That's good. Drone can't do a darn thing about it, and now it's all up to Ange. With no real util outside of the snake bite, and in to the poison orb goes Bob. Come on. Looked like Ange was frozen stiff there.
Dude, Bob is so annoying. Oh my
Last
gosh.
round before
I
the
mean,
switch.
it's just these little peek and poke timings. You find the contact, and then Bob just like runs away just to confirm that no one's able to isolate and chase her down. So then all of a sudden, you've got the Glazers looking at 5 different things at once, kind of stuck up top at tower, and just when they try to get their execute because the time is ticking in their ears, Bob comes back, runs up, finds a kill, runs away. And that's the most annoying post plant through screens I think I've ever seen. And that comes off of it being initially bobbled when Precision gets a lineup for 2. So it really relies on the fact that Bob has to kind of save the day again. So 7-4 tally, and the Glazers map pick has gone anything but successful to this point.
Once again, Riki's been tasked with holding B down alongside Drone, but there is Cypher Util that's been left behind just at the opening. And if they don't have a Trailblazer to break that open, Sad will, of course, be revealed there. Now that mid-round, mid-contact, we don't always see from Sad, but the Glazers always have like a 1 minute or so time with some kind of util down there, but the Trailblazer's going to ramps instead and does spot Zoe.
Yeah, and that little spot is not enough to commit through, but it does give them the luxury of kind of exploring other parts of the map, knowing that there's going to be a couple of openings, and this timing could be huge. It just comes down to, can these offensive players at the bottom side of ramp keep the focus of the players up top down towards the site itself, not let them isolate, especially with Zoe still using this operator up top. Maybe there's a chance to isolate, and Skarner's open the door.
Zachary playing so passively here in this corner. Couldn't see the cross. I love this though.
Oh!
Coburg having a whip around on Zachary.
30 seconds.
Not a
left.
great round here for the Glazers. Still able to keep it close player-wise, but Bob is already on that plant.
Spike
Screens is about to be taken by
Last
Coburg.
player
Just as he
standing.
tries to back up into the smoke, they spot Riku. Thrown in a 1v3.
Satchel out.
And that shot gives everything away. Now you're just hoping and praying for this boombot to find some sort of success. This should likely result in a wide peak, and yep, there it is. The timing perfect, and an 8-4 half. The Glazers, I'm not gonna lie to you, Mitch,
Switching
really
sides.
didn't have anything going for them defensively, like at all. They had that one thrifty that nearly started to turn the momentum over. There's also the Zachary move over towards B, which started to find more success, but Sad just said, you know what? We don't want to deal with the Cypher. You're gonna go to A? Fine, we'll go to B. You're gonna go to B? Fine, we'll go to A. It's just almost that simple. Once they read the information of, is Zach gonna be playing that spy cam up top or not? Well, hey, if it's there, then he's not there, and if it's not there, then we can go somewhere else. They're just kind of just moving around Zachary way too easily.
I mean, they got rampant ropes for free.
Yeah.
Sad did.
Every
on that
round
last
almost.
So
Yeah.
like the pinch on a precision was very straightforward. Anyway, we'll put that out of our minds now as we head to the pistol for the second half. But 8 rounds on attack for Sad. That's a massive boon, and that's going to account for a lot going forward. Again, 4 players stacked up in mid, and Sad are actually walking it down.
Yeah, the timing of this is going to be great, especially if they see the spike. Oh, mercy. This is not what you want. Ange will get a read on this. Molly comes through, but it's really not all that well placed. The paranoia comes through, but Drone collects a 2, plus now the paint shells to re-clear.
That was unbelievably aggressive there from Darkest.
Whoa!
Okay, we're going in apparently. Ange able to find 2 here and leave Bob on her own with the spike headed in a completely different direction.
Yeah. That was wild, flat out. I mean, the read comes through just at the perfect time from Ange. Because if Ange is starting to commit to moving in towards B main with the rest of the squad, they get ran through trying to plant this. So, really good timing. Bob has been a hero, or a heroine, I suppose you would say. Not here, though. Pistol goes the way of the Glazers.
Cage triggered.
Dad thought they were onto something there with that play down mid. Again, just overcooked ever so slightly. See, looking at the scoreboard though, Bob, okay, she has had a great game. Something I mentioned beforehand. I didn't really want to see Sad have to rely on her too much, but Darkest has also shown us a great first half here on Splits.
And I don't really think that, you look at the 18-6, it's hard to say, or make the argument that, the Sad Esports is not relying on Bob, but it's really just been by a byproduct of timing and just Bob fulfilling their role perfectly. Hitting these rogue pinches, the timings to kind of secure post plants. It's a lot of follow-up off of her own utility, which has been great. But I think the same thing can be said. The efficiency's there for the whole team. I mean, think how many times they were able to execute to get onto site pretty cleanly. So Bob has been a complete package, as we've kind of labeled out for the last handful of weeks.
Coburg knows. Glazers want to clear that camera.
What?
The drone's able to spray it down through the smoke. Good start here for the Glazers. Andrew calls with that outlaw in hand. Still Heaven presence right now for Sad, and many of them are stacked into the smoke here. Precision and Drone trying to get a crossfire going, but they're split up by the dark cover. He's still going to go in the attacker's favor, though. And that'll be that. Just one player lost here for the Glazers.
Yeah, a little bit of that defensive utility, just a little bit too wide. The mollies don't really flush anybody out. Plus, I mean, it's the fact that it's SMGs in dark covers against classics. I think that result was pretty much predetermined. So an important 2 rounds there for the Glazers. But this is where we're going to start to see what their offensive intentions are going to look like. Different Viper's wall placement here for the Glazers. Moving across a tower also blocks the first entry point towards ramp. So you would have to think if you're SAD Esports, you need to throw something like a dark cover, or pardon me, a guiding light or a trailblazer just to make sure there's no aggressive hit. But actually the offensive utility is probably enough for Bob to say, yep, they're here, or at least they're somewhere nearby. So him and Coburg will get to work just trying to lock things up and stay stationary.
Decent timing here. That'll be one. Hands trying to spam there with the outlaw, but Skarn had not advanced far enough. Zachary was trying to set up in mid to catch a cross, I think, from Mail. Doesn't quite have the timing there either, though. Skarn seems pretty satisfied with their work so far, and forced back by the guiding light. Coburg will not be revealing himself here.
Yeah, really good defensive rotation coming through, and just knowing that they didn't need to commit after that opening offensive utility comes through. Just back off. That's a lot spent. Counter when we need to. Get someone to rotate through mid, and it locks everything down perfectly. And now for the Glazers, you feel like there's no options anywhere because the smoke persistence in mid makes life difficult, to where Zach really just has to kind of hope and pray he can walk through it. Same thing can be said for Ange, who's doing the exact same thing up towards screens. Sure, you get the spy cam out, but the defense does not really care much about that. It just kind of moves eyes just a little bit more just to make sure that top A ramp stays safe.
Ropes at the start of the round, the Glazers. I think they ultimately wanted to pinch here through mid, and eventually their patience pays off. But there's 20 seconds left in the round. Up that rafters control. Coburg, the anchor on the site, though, could be an issue for them. Staying hidden for the time being. Nothing to reveal him. And he springs forth to find 2. The spray down is good. And doesn't even know what hit him. And now it's up to Riku to try and pick up all the pieces. But hey, that is a tough job indeed. Sad, get one back, and now start to get achingly close towards the magic number.
Yep, that's clean. Again, just off the superior weapons, but also just getting a good read on the Glazers and their initial push, staying alive, not putting yourself on vulnerable spots to get taken advantage by odd number hits. Yeah, really well done. Yeah, I mean,
get info about Coburg anchored on the site there.
And that's a byproduct of them spending so much just to get ramp control, Mitch. I think that's the bigger part of it, right? Is, you know, they're spending so much utility from precision just to get some forward footing that once you actually get to the formidable spots that the defense gets set up in, you have nothing to flush them out with, maybe except for a dark cover or paranoia. So, you know, the utility exchange has definitely favored SAD through this map, and that will continue to be the case at least early on here in this defensive side for them.
Like the one-way here from Zoe and B-Main has allowed them to take all of that space and deny that at least for the next 20 or so seconds as an entry point for the Glazers. It's re-smoked as well, as he's mid though. Yeah. Glazers leaning into some util in the middle part of the map here.
I mean, look at it's just so clean. As soon as the poison's low for Darkest, the offensive one gets put up and he says, all right, I'll just snake bite that. This is my middle, by the way. You can't have it. And then eventually, once the smokes toggle hands again, you spam through and the focus is perfect. This is exactly the recipe that we've seen in some regard across all of our most successful split defensive teams. Keeping that poison cloud up and fortified at the middle of the map. And the Glazers have just not been able to respect that on their own defensive half. And now offensively, they don't really seem to have much of an offer towards trying to counter it.
I mean, this is the process of elimination to some degree as well. A looks like a dog's breakfast with all the Cypher util there. B had a double one-way smoke in B main that allowed
30 seconds
Zoe
left
to take a ton of space. And then just contact into mid off some of that util timing. Maybe even just spray down through your own poison orb. Sad. I mean, they knew exactly where they had to apply pressure there. And it's just something we've observed in the past about the Glazers and some of their attacking protocols. Like, can fall apart. There are gaps in util at times. And here,
10 seconds
they
left.
really can't get anything going.
No, it's one of those things. And, you know, you and I had the cast last week where we saw the same kind of thing happen with Split, where it's just like, guys, we have to layer our utility to actually gain some forward ground. We can't just use it to feel out spaces. Like, if you're on the offensive side of this map, whatever you're going to do, with your opening utility better lead towards either forcing a reaction out of the defense or you getting some good offensive footholds. And at the moment, we really haven't seen that. I mean, the pistol and the follow-up, sure, great, fine, perfect, dandy. But it's another one of those early moments that you kind of see the Glazers don't really have an answer for some of the early utility expenditures because they have to spend things like Guiding Lights and Trailblazers at mid-map. And the shots from Skarn help out, sure, but I think a lot of that is just down to they have to do that because Darkest has been really good about replacing utility at mid to make sure that it just stays constantly under pressure.
I mean, that is raw contact from Ange after Precision gets picked off. So I'll allow, like, it's unfortunate timing while Precision's throwing out the flash, but Ange has no choice but to just to jiggle the corner towards Mail. Like, you're on your own, you're a controller, you don't have your Sky with you anymore, you have no way of preempting anything or getting that info, you just kind of got to swing it. Some good old-fashioned Valorant there, and again, that's not really going to pay out for you when the defenders are so well entrenched here. So Sad are very, very good at taking away or drawing out these resources from the Glazers, forcing them maybe to make use of them in inefficient scenarios here. And this emphasis on mid has served them really well, not just on defense, but also on the attacking half, if you remember some of those nasty bob lurks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the middle of the map has been a major issue for the Glazers, flat out. And I think the longer this offensive half goes, the more we're going to see them kind of maybe even stray away from it, try to get some forced hits over towards B main or A main. This time it's a spy cam for the offense to look over towards A, but you know, with a limited buy and kind of a round that you need to deal some damage on, you have to hit this with a heavy hand. And the problem here is they're going right into Coburg's rotation over towards B. There is a trap wire that they do see, but it's a forward spy cam that will be enough, you would think, for Coburg to read it and say, let me just get out of here, wait for help.
Paint shells there to clear some of that. We might be playing for the orb here if the Glazers. Drone obviously one away from that showstopper. Now we're splitting a little bit. Okay, 1 minute. Press towards mid. Like this though from Skarn, playing a different angle this time around and sees a heck of a lot off that. Trailblazer will spot Skarn at the very least, but there's going to be at least a crossfire setup, or at least your Viper here is in heaven. Darkest is on the watch.
And that's the thing, is he's got a trap wire to keep him safe. All you gotta do is toggle, throw shoulders. I mean, the retreat back from Skarn means that really nobody can go over towards vents because you even have a Viper wall there. There is the replacement of the smoke a little bit deeper in towards mail just to make things a little bit extra sloppy. And the Glazers' only real option here is to hope they find success from the front, and then a late lurk from Riku with this hero Vandal can make some work happen.
Look at this. The variation from Bob. They fight against the smoke, but not even needed in the end. Darkest able to find two from heaven because that heaven lurk from Riku was way too late. They're forced to play from behind the trap wire. You can see it there.
Yep. And that's another one of those things of that late dark cover just kind of keeps the lurk at bay. That's a little while longer. And to be fair, it's also a little bit blessed that Coburg just starts spamming with Darkest and they come away with 3 kills before the hit even actually happens. So, I mean, the timing of the clock helping out the defender's awareness right there without question. But flat out, this has been as close to a masterclass as we've seen on Split from Sad. I mean, outside of the pistol and a little bit of a folly there kind of in the middle of their offensive half, it's been very comfortable on all fronts through and through. And if you're the Glazers, this is it right here. I mean, you lose this round, you're down bad. So have to have it, whatever it's going to be. And I think a lot of this has to be, hey, get a forward smoke in towards vents. Try to put some pressure on the mail. Throw that Trailblazer a little bit later than we've seen, which is mostly coming here from Ramen. Like, just get a further, deeper sense of utility and force Sad to have to throw a little bit more out.
This Viper ball here obviously helps out with the A split, the pinch through mid. But the Glazers haven't been able to make any good execution. Look at that, look what happened that last round. That fell to pieces. Skarn's going to get topped up here. And now Zachary wondering again just what to do. 3 players from Sad positioned towards that ramp. They overloaded this time around. The Glazers lose a key weapon.
Here comes the
Darkest should know someone's nearby. Oh, well done. But the trade from Coburg is good. And from the back of the site, he's going to get a supply of the dark cover, but it doesn't quite get there for him to use in time. And this could still lead to a plant. Sad what they want to try to go quickly here, though, Mitch.
Bob is very low. Bear that in mind, Riku. Able to find him. TP over towards B main. This is nice. Going to be able to link up with Zachary here. You have a player embedded backside. This is a post plant that you've got to feel good for the Glazers in.
one enemy remaining.
Great time.
Yeah. This is one of those moments where you just kind of hope and pray someone gives you an isolated peek, but they check the spike. No one's on it. And now Riku just has to sit here and play bodyguard on top of it. Good read,
like
but it's still one of those situations that as soon as it expires, it's just an easy double peek to come through. Punishing yet. But that's what I'm looking for here, Mitch. It's just find a little bit more of an overheaded hit, pull the focus towards the outsides, and then use just the guiding light. It was all they used there from Precision to get information that no one was playing in the immediate part of vents, get quick mail control, and force SAD to have to make a decision defensively, because to this point, they really haven't had to. The layers that they've put together have been really, really well fleshed out.
Yeah, it's a B split. It works. I mean, it's obviously pretty robust if you can get control of that mid. But like we've been discussing, like the rotation of utility in that part of the map makes it really hard to safely scale in to that key area of split. Now, again, we might just overload ramps again briefly. Viper's Pit down in mid for SAD.
Yeah, this makes a whole new problem start to come through here for the Glazers. Yeah, even more so, the prediction off this. Good trigger discipline from Scarred. Not to be completely fooled, to try to hit the midair, waits for drone to land, and then it's all action 5v4.
I like the response, though. You're actually activating the rest of the Glazers in towards A main here. And the timing is pretty good. SAD actually give up Heaven just in case there's a re-hit off the back of drone falling. All of the action is down here on the ground. And SAD have no idea.
The thing is, they can just play a 5v4 retake here. And I think that's going to be the big commitment. You know, you find one elimination from someone like Bob. Seekers are back up again.
Spike planted.
And that seems to be what they're trying to try to isolate for. Although the Glazers, timing-wise, are going to sneak through the backside of screens into tower. This still needs to be cleared regardless, though, and Bob will see a little bit of that with the Trailblazer. And they also confirm that no one's over towards the screens themselves, but Zach catches timing over towards ropes. Darkus has to try to make something happen, and they're on the chase. Trailblazer will connect. Now the Glazers have numbers.
Player advantage for Glazers, as you said. Good flash there. Precision's able to follow up on it beautifully. And the Glazers get it done. I guess it's interesting, right, that SAD felt a little exposed in Heaven, and Heaven on that round and pulled back. I think it was actually Bob. She just played back over towards screens and then into spawn, whilst the entirety of the Glazers walked up through A main. And you're right, yeah, they can get a 5v4 retake scenario, but they're still heavily disadvantaged by position.
And there is some opportunity here, I think, with what's about to come online. I mean, you're going to be really far away from drones alt, but if you can find a way to get Precision up to another set of Seekers, that could be huge. Because what we're looking for right now for the Glazers is, simply put, try to get a spike plant down and then reinforce it with a Viper's Pit. That could be enough for them to possibly win round 9, we'll just call it for now, hypothetically speaking. But if you can get to Seekers again, there is an opportunity to make this offense a little bit more, you know, lenient and just find extra opportunities depending on how you want to try to stretch things across the map. This time, the little toggle towards B main doesn't really focus much for SAD. And I think that this is the right call. See if you can pull an extra bit of attention towards mid, pull out the early Darkus utility, and then force a decision to come through by hitting this.
I think Riku might be moving to try and keep attention on the extremities here of B. Just as we have 3 players pushing up mid. Drone punches there straight through that poison orb. Okay, we have ropes control. This is a great start. Do we get activation of Zachary though on the A side?
I don't think they need to yet because they want to wait for these Seekers to get pulled and deleted. This doesn't result in too much. They know that they're at mid-map. Cool. We already knew that if you're SAD Esports. So this is all about, you deal with the Seekers, and now Zach can make his move to try to pull extra attention over towards A while the tower towards B is already being hit. You see the weapon in the back. Drone finds the easy kill, and now the action's on.
Drone doesn't take hell though. Skarn is waiting. Okay,
no
Spike's
way.
going to go somewhere pretty quickly. It's going to be towards A, but Zachary doesn't make great inroads there either. And Coburg once again is playing from this nasty spot. This time he gets checked though. He's going to be forced off the angle, but Ant is not ready. And once again, you're anchoring defenders from SAD. Find great timings and swing into attackers caught on the wrong foot.
Yeah, that's one of those moments that I think that if you're the Glazers, you played that just about perfectly. Wait for the Seekers to come through, delete it, pause for a moment, show force towards A tower, show force towards B tower, and then again, you force the SAD defense to have to make a decision, but instead of that, they kind of just play right into the defense not really being set yet. They were still trying to figure out a bit of a rotation, and then once you get that pick from Coburg, backside billboard, by the way, he's able to help reestablish the defense towards A, and of course, like you mentioned, the trade towards Hell is one of those that just makes the defensive rotation that much easier. I just think the Glazers just overcooked a little bit, like we keep talking about. They just played that a little bit too fast.
Once again, back towards mid. The Glazers have to make it happen here, and there's only a stinger on Ange. Get a post plan with the Viper's Pit, you're laughing. But the issue has been getting the spike down at all for the Glazers here. Trying to clear out these anchoring players. Yes, they get mid control, but sad retreat to the extremities and are very hard to dig out of these sites. And oh god, yeah, we've got Skarn in that nasty little box spot here.
And they have to throw something at this. They have to flash it. They have to smoke it. They have to do something. You cannot just run forward and check this. But you could see what Zoe is doing, just throwing shoulders. No one looks, and well, that's the worst case scenario right there, Mitch. I'd say 3 for 2. And the defense never really gives up much over towards B as Riku's still essentially stuck on site.
You're right. About as bad as it gets here.
One enemy remaining.
Now back for that spike, and Bob will be immovable there. Assad take the map away. Split goes in their favor. And again, this is where you really expected the Glazers to try and get off to a hot start. And you know what? They look fine. They look decent. But coming out of the defending round with only 4 rounds, that's not nearly enough. They got really red. The soul read from Sad was real on their attacking half.
I think we can just label it into one particular part of the map, Mitch. Both sides, mid-map issue, constantly. Defensively, did not have the same kind of replace and return utility that we've kind of seen a lot of the staple teams do so far in Challengers. Poison Cloud, replaced by a dark cover, or you replace it by using a snake bite if you're going to commit to that like we saw from Sad Esports. Other side of it, offensively, they didn't really have enough penetrating utility to clear out vents or get up through mail. A lot of the utility that we saw coming out from the sky was just to get through the smoke and see the early entryways. You need to get that deeper. If it's a guiding light, it's trailblazer, whatever it happens to be, you need to get a little bit of extra information. Force the defense to have to respond to you already at mid. And that just really wasn't a byproduct of what the Glazers put it together. It just didn't really feel like the playbook, whatever they brought in today, was well fleshed out to deal with what has been a pretty stock defensive setup. And on the flip side, they also didn't have much of a defensive playbook that has resembled a lot of the success we've already seen so far in Challengers. So for their map pick, not impressed from the Glazers, at least not for me.
This is a team at 0-3 right now as well. This is a series they absolutely must win. It looks like it's going the wrong way and fast for them. They're going to have to bounce back pretty quickly from map number 2, which is, of course, just on the other side of this break. We'll be back for more Glazers versus Sad Esports.
I'm very conflicted in this question.
For the rest of my life?
Duo for ranked. So far, me and Weeded have been playing a lot of ranked, and we've been winning. So I'd probably say Weeded out of everybody.
Mata doesn't lose ranked.
Whoever I play with, if they stream, you know the deal. You know the deal with that. No, I think I would play with Sabrosa. I have a lot of fun with Sabrosa. I can't stop laughing every time I play with him. He's a little dumb sometimes. I wake up early to play him because he has a bit of a morning schedule. So I'm always tired, and he makes me laugh every 2 seconds. So I would probably say Sabrosa. Not sure we're gonna win, but we'll have a good time.
My boy Pancakes, you know, like that guy's got it all when it comes to ranked. Like he comes in, you know, he's ready to roll. You know, he's got the raise on deck just in case we got to see some serious satchel movement. If we need a controller player, he's a controller main. You know, who's gonna step up to the plate in ranked and say, yo, I'm gonna play smokes. I'm gonna throw some good smokes for the team. I'm gonna win us the game. That's my boy Jake.
G2 leave. That's like one of my best friends. I mean, I don't usually, yeah. I mean, he just carries me. it's like I just sit in his little backpack and then I just run around. But I mean, I also just like playing with him. So
it's easy. I'm choosing Mata. I have like a 90% win rate, no matter how many times we play. But
see, I deal with Asuna a lot, but I don't know if I could take him yapping 24/7 all the time. That's tough. Asuna or Zekken, one of the two. Honestly, Zekken's just like, I could probably lay back and take a nap while I'm in the ranked game. He'll carry me. He's like the best ranked player I've ever seen. And then Asuna's just like pretty enjoyable to play with. He's my friend, so like, why not?
Dude, this has got to be like someone like I fuck with. It's got to be like my boy or something. Because if I just say like someone like I'm like okay friends with, and then they don't say me, it's kind I kind of just look like a dickhead, you know. Yeah, I guess probably, you know, Scuba. Scuba's my boy. That's my twin.
Thank you.